we're going to go straight to questions. We're going to open up front row, middle. Dave?
Ryan, last year Michigan's defense seemed to be in man coverage almost 100% of the time. This year they seem to be mixing up a little bit more. Can you just speak on what differences you've seen from them schematically on defense this year?
Yeah, they've they've gone to a lot more zone, and but they mix it up, and Coach Brown does a great job of that. He's always had a lot of different coverages and a lot of different looks, and I'm sure we'll see a lot of them on Saturday.
Front row right, Austin?
Ryan, when Justin went down late in the fourth quarter, I saw him, he bounced back up, but what kind of conversation was that? Was your heart in your throat a little bit? Take me through that process there.
Yeah, no, for sure. Anytime you see your starting quarterback on the ground, it's not a good feeling, but he was able to shake it off and kind of run off the field, and so we expect him to be fine.
With that volume of carries, is that just this? When you get in those big games, you hold nothing back. Is it too many for him, do you think? When you watch the film, what did you think of that amount of rushing attempts?
Yeah, no, I thought when we play in big games like that, we certainly rely on him to run some. And it's not typically quarterback design runs, although we have some of those. A lot of them we're reading somebody, and based on what he does, he can either keep it or run it. And then some of those are scrambles. When you look at his numbers, and he does a great job extending plays, but. Penn State kind of forced him to run the ball a little bit, and he did a great job. Other than the 2 turnovers, I thought he was unbelievable. And so, we'll continue to do that when we think it's appropriate.
Second row, middle. Steve?
Yeah, Coach, just curious, you coached under Coach Meyer for 2 years with his schedule of this week and how to handle it. Are you tweaking anything? What does Thanksgiving look like? Senior tackle, do you guys still do that? Just how does this week, day by day, break out?
Yeah, just because of, like you said, the holiday, we keep Tuesday, Wednesday pretty similar. We have our family dinner Wednesday night, and then we get in here early. Coaches work late Wednesday night. We get in here early and practice Thursday. And then, we do our senior tackle and then let everybody get home for Thanksgiving and then go right back at it Friday. So pretty similar to what we've done in the past.
Right next door, Bruce?
Growing up in New England, what was the rivalry that you as a kid and, liking football, what were some of the rivalries or the rivalry you focused on?
Yeah, growing up, it was mostly the pro sports because that's where I was from in the Boston area, and it was Red Sox, Yankees, it was Celtics, Lakers. The Patriots really didn't have too many rivals at that point, but that was kind of it. But certainly, growing up, that was kind of your identity. Was that, and definitely with the Red Sox. Every time somebody wears a Red Sox hat back home, that's who you are, and certainly can relate that to everybody who grew up in the state of Ohio and when they put the Block O on.
There's been a shift in this rivalry toward the Ohio State side since Dressel was the coach here. He largely got it done with Ohio guys. When you're bringing guys in from out of state, how do you get them to understand the priority that this rivalry is to the school?
In recruiting, we talked to them right from the get-go, and that's one of the reasons why some people come to school here is for the rivalry, because we make such a big deal of it. As you guys know, when you walk in the building, it's all over the place, and we talk about it all the time, and we talk about it in recruiting in all different areas, whether it's strength and conditioning or football or anything other areas. And so, it's something that you just ingrain, and then the more these guys are in the program, the more they get it. And we still have a huge, majority of our guys are from the area, so they get it and they talk to the guys about that.
Second row right, Kyle?
The big matchup in this game the last few years has been your offense and Don Brown's defense. And you guys coached together at Boston College for a few years. Just curious how close you guys got there, and if he's been someone you've stayed in touch with at all.
Yeah, so he actually coached against me when I played, and then coached my brother at UMass, and then we coached together at Boston College, and now get an opportunity to coach against each other in a huge rivalry game, which makes it hard, but nothing but respect for his background and what he's done defensively over the years. One of the best guys in the business.
And then growing up in New England, do you have memories of this game at all? Anything in particular you remember growing up about the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry?
Not just that, it was always on this weekend, and, it was almost heated rivalries, and just remember watching it. And I remember being in a hotel room watching when Curtis Samuel, scored in double overtime. Just so many memories of what this game means, and, it's no mystery throughout the country that it's the biggest rivalry in all sports.
Fourth row, middle. Patrick?
Brian, Bruce asked you about integrating players and kind of following up on Kyle's side. How did you get into it when you first arrived here to what this meant, being that you grew up watching it, but it's different.
Yeah. No, I think for the first I don't know 6 months, my son and I, when we came in the building together, we'd sit there in the front atrium and we'd watch that video of the season before, and just as you get here, you start to live it every day and you understand it. And Coach Meyer certainly talked about it all the time and learned that way, and then being in the game twice, and the respect that I have for the rivalry is off the charts. It's just one of the reasons and makes it so special to be at Ohio State.
Third row right, Rob.
There's a lot of reasons this has been lopsided since early 2000s, but is there a secret sauce that's involved in this? And what did you learn from Urban? You mentioned it just a second ago. What specifically, if anything, and how to handle this?
Again, if you're working on it all year, then you're prepared. Whether you've worked on it in the spring, you've worked on it in the preseason, you have certain periods that you set aside just to work on the team up north. You talk to your guys all the time about what it means, and so they understand coming into the game what to expect. It's always on the schedule that way. We have the countdown in the building, and so I think everybody understands the importance of it. That's the first thing, and I think when you're just talking about the game itself, it just goes back to the fundamentals and taking care of the football, executing the game plan, giving them a good plan that they can execute. And being on the road is a little different than being home. We're gonna have to handle that and being loud and the crowd noise and everything else. So we'll handle that today and make sure we pipe in the crowd noise during practice and show composure there. But it's just going to come down to win the one-on-one battles in the end.
And I want to get your reaction on this. There's several surveys out there, Buckeye Nation. 40% would, given a choice, would rather beat Michigan and lose in the playoff than win a national title and lose to Michigan. Does that surprise you at all? What's that speak to the intensity here?
Oh, I don't know. I just know we're focused on this game, and I don't know. I mean, a lot of people do a lot of what-if scenarios and everything, and I know that this game means everything to us, and nothing matters if we don't win this game. So we got to win the game, and that's the only way I look at it.
Front row left, Nathan.
Just what stands out to you about Michigan's offense, and how have you seen it sort of develop and progress over the course of the season?
Yeah, I thought that since the halftime of the Penn State game, they've really played good football, and Patterson's throwing the ball well. The receivers are good. Collins, Peoples-Jones. I think their tight ends are good. The offensive line did a really good job against Notre Dame, and they got a good scheme. They had a lot of good coaches there, so they kind of found a rhythm in the second half of the season here, and so it'll probably be our biggest challenge again. As we've gone on the season, I think we've been challenged more and more, and this will be the most talented group we've seen by far.
The way that they sort of move people around with motion, misdirection, things like that, is that something that could potentially negate Chase Young, and how do you see your defense having to kind of respond to that? They're sound and they do a good job. I think at the end of the day, it comes down to players, and I don't think they're going to do anything that's going to be anything that we probably haven't seen, but maybe they will. But I think at the end of the day, it's going to come down to execution and guys winning their one-on-one battles.
Second row left, Ari.
Hey, Ryan, last year you guys had a huge recruiting battle head-to-head with somebody in this state with Harrison. But over the course of the past 7 years, it doesn't seem like you've butted heads with Michigan at all on the recruiting trail, whether it's in this state or not. Are you ever surprised by how little of a presence they have in Ohio on the recruiting trail based on just the fact that they've won a lot of games and have traditionally done that?
Well, we take a lot of pride in recruiting the state of Ohio, and then we put their recruiting list on the board and compare our guys to theirs, just about every day, every week, and that's something that Mark looks at every day. And that, again, that's part of how you live this rival is you compare yourselves every day against them. And we take a lot of pride in the fact that we recruit Ohio at a high level, and we're very competitive. But they do a good job too. They have good recruiters and obviously a wonderful program. So it's always a big challenge, and that's why we go at it every day.
My next question was about how the recruiting board or their recruiting board is on your wall. What can you learn from that? How long has that been going on? And as the head coach of this program, I'm assuming you've had to transition into the role of understanding what the entire strategy is and being in charge of that. What do you learn from it?
It's been there since I got here, and it just gives you some awareness of where we're at and the battles, like you said, that we're in against certain guys, and we rank our people, and we just want to always know exactly who those guys are, because we know we're going to be playing them, and that's what's important. In recruiting, sometimes you don't worry about the guys you don't get, you worry about the guys you do get. But when you're playing, or when you're going up against a team up north, you're going to be playing against them, so it does matter who you don't get. And so we just look at that very carefully.
Do you ever make decisions in recruiting based on what's on their board?
It influences us, sure.
Right next door, Bill.
Ryan, everyone saw what you guys did last year against Michigan's defense, 62 points against a unit of that caliber, and it seemed like a lot of it was stuff you had in to beat man-to-man coverage, and obviously Michigan has adjusted its defense. But I'm wondering how you've seen every defense you've played adjust to you guys since you did that, and in turn maybe how that shaped your offensive plan this season.
Yeah, I mean, this is a whole new year, so we look at the film a little bit to see what they did and everything like that. But they're going to make adjustments on all that stuff. They're very well coached, so we really don't look at that much at all. We're really looking at this year, kind of what we do, what they're doing. Their personnel is very different now, and what he's doing is significantly different. So. Yeah, I mean, guys are kind of on a week-to-week basis. They look and see what we're doing, and they try to stay a step ahead of you. But that's the evolution of a season. And once you get more and more games on film, then they make the adjustments from there.
I guess maybe to reword that, what percentage of zone coverage do you think you all see this year, and how does that compare to last year?
Probably pretty similar. Yeah.
It's not different after you put 62 on.
No, I mean, I just think that all of those plays weren't against man-to-man. There were some, but he mixes up his zones, and there was some zone in there too.
And Justin and Chris both were talking about executing the deep ball coming off the Rutgers games. Looked like maybe one or two were underthrown last week, and I can't imagine it's an issue of arm strength with Justin. I'm just wondering, when a guy has an arm that is that strong, can it be any harder to calibrate it to make sure you're putting that ball in the right place, and maybe could you overcompensate and end up leaving it short a little too much?
Yeah, the first one we were, it was a calculated throw that we wanted to really shoot down the field, and Chris is so fast that he kind of outran his arm on that one to the field. That was a big ball. The other one, to me, it was a little bit more. He had to move in the pocket because somebody flashed in his face, so it didn't come out on rhythm like we like. So typically it's just a timing thing. Justin has a very, very strong arm. So, it's usually in the pocket. So that's why we want to firm up that pocket so the ball comes out on time.
Yeah. Coming out of the Penn State game, you said that in the second half when things were kind of going south, that kind of retrenched and weren't as aggressive as you normally are. In hindsight, do you think that was the right thing? Does it inform anything you might do this week against Michigan, knowing that it's probably going to be a close game, or it's going to be a tough situation?
No, it doesn't change anything. I think absolutely it was the right thing to do at the time, and won the game. That's the number one thing to do, and so you do everything you can to win the game. But we're aggressive. We always will be aggressive, and we're going to be aggressive. Yeah.
And in terms of what this game means to you, you've always said you don't feel pressure here. You feel opportunity. But you took over for a coach and went 7-0, your first game against Michigan. How are you approaching this game for you personally?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to do the best I can to make it like every week, although we all know it's not, and do a little extra here, do a little extra there to make sure that we're covering every single scenario we can, making sure we're letting the guys have a great plan. But if you start to overdo things, then you can get yourself jammed up, and that's why all the work gets done ahead of time. That's why we live at 365, so that when you get here during the week, you don't have to all of a sudden come up with an unbelievable speech on a Tuesday. The guys know what it is, and you can put the focus more on giving them a good plan, making sure things are tight, and spending your focus on making sure the guys are prepared.
So when you took over December 4th, you're already thinking about this game?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's no secret that, part of your evaluation as the head coach at Ohio State is how you do in this game. We all know that. So when you take the job, you understand that. You could win them all and then not win this game, and you feel like it's a disappointment. And I get that. I embrace it, and that's why we're working so hard this week.
Right next door, Tim.
Yeah, Ryan, number one, what is that key area that's between tight and loose that you want to get to for this game? I mean, obviously you don't want the guys so tight.
Yep.
You know, I mean, how do you play that?
Well, I call it focus. I think when you look at someone's eyes, you can tell if they're focused or not. And based on how well you prepare, the more confidence you have. So I look at it like, if you're taking a test and you know the answers to the test, you're focused, but you're not nervous and you're locked in. You know you're going to do well because you have all the answers to the test. If you don't know all the answers to the test, and you start getting nervous, you start getting anxious. But as long as our focus is right and we understand that, which I'll be shocked if it isn't, and we prepare the right way, that gives us our best chance to be successful.
And the other thing, I mean, we don't get to talk to these two guys this week, but Greg Madison and Al Washington Jr., how special a week is this for them, considering where they were a year ago? And how much do you lean on them for insight?
Here and there, but they're busy getting their side ready to go, and I'm sure there's a range of emotions, and certainly when they get on the bus and head up there, there'll be even more. But it's just one of those things that's part of the job. You work through it, and they'll be really professional about it, and they know there's a lot riding on this game, and they want to do great for their players and for their families and everything like that. But I'm sure there's a lot of emotions going on there.
Real quick follow. Did you go after them because of something also that they could bring to this week in particular, or was
No.
that part of the attraction?
No. The major attraction was that I knew both of them very well. One, I was a coach when he played, and then I coached with him. And then the other one I coached with and have a tremendous amount of respect for. And my whole plan was that, when I have an opportunity to have my first coaching staff, everybody in that room I trusted that had my back when things maybe didn't go so well. And that was it. And it just so happened to be that it was against the School of North. And I know sometimes that's hard to swallow, but that was just what it was.
Third row middle, Dan.
Ryan, is there a specific moment or memory you have after you arrived here at Ohio State where you realized just how important this rivalry was to people here?
I don't think it was just one moment. There's a lot of moments, just because it's every day. It's every day in the Woody. It's when you recruit. It's everything. So I don't think there was one moment, but there's a lot of moments. The most memorable, I think, for me when I tell the story is that, when they talk about throwing out the records and that anything can happen in this game was just what happened to JT, and I was kind of, we're preparing, we're getting ready to play in that game, and right as the ball's about to kick off, I hear JT's hurt and he can't go back in the game, and the game hasn't even started yet. And I said, okay, well, here we go. We're in the rivalry game. So, had to adjust there, and then, he played in the first half, and then Dwayne had to come in and go win the game, and that just goes to show you, there's no records in a game like this. It's a rivalry, and anything can happen. So, buckle up and get ready.
How exciting is it for you personally to be going through this rivalry week as a head coach for the first time?
Yeah, it's exciting. I don't know if that's the number one emotion right now for me. There's just so many things going on. But once we get closer to the game, I'll get more and more excited to play the game. But right now, the focus is just on getting our guys ready, preparing, make sure the game plan's right, making sure practice is right, making sure our guys are healthy, and just making sure everything's in place to give our guys the best chance to be successful. And then as we get closer, the competitiveness starts to ramp up, and you get ready to play.
Front row left, Doug.
What did it tell you about Chris Olave last year for him to have 2 touchdown catches in the Michigan game like that and sort of bust on the scene in a game that important? What did you learn about him?
Well, I think you learned what followed after that, which is that he's a great player. I don't think anybody really knew up until that game what he was capable of, and then what you've seen afterwards is what he is capable of. So, just obviously to play in a game like that and to become a legend in the history of the game, as a freshman to block a punt and have 2 touchdowns, that's just unbelievable. And then look what he's done from here. So that was a great way to start off his career.
Talking about the way, obviously it does seem like Michigan is playing more zone this year. Ohio State was a time when Ohio State was playing press man pretty much every snap several years ago, and now you guys mix up coverages. In today's day and age, do you feel like most defenses have to give different looks at this point? Can a good college team really come out and say, we're playing man, we dare you to beat us, or is it just hard to do that?
Teams do, and teams like to change it up. I'll say this, nobody gives more looks than Don Brown when it comes to different looks. He takes a lot of pride in that. I know that, and over the years, his different teams, they'll play more zone than man. They'll play more zone than or man than zone. And what he does a great job of is he puts his guys in position to be successful. And So again, some of those things last year, maybe it seemed like, man, they were still zone. And so he changes it up, and he does a great job. And I know he's going to do another good job this weekend.
And this is a repeating question you've been asked a million times. Everybody grows up with stuff. The two previous head coaches here grew up with this. Jim Tressel and Urban Meyer could tell stories, and when they were a kid, and they did, about Ohio State, Michigan. You didn't grow up in Ohio. It doesn't disqualify you from being the Ohio State head coach or from this rivalry. But I don't know, can you just explain when you come to learn about something as an adult, right, that maybe it's not in you, but I think maybe on some level, you have a different appreciation of it because it's not necessarily in your blood, but man, when you start learning about it, you do start understanding it. Just that process for you, the history of it, the intensity of it, because you really did come to it more as an adult.
Yeah. Well, and I think that for me to see what this means to the people of Ohio and the Buckeye Nation, that's to me where it really hits home to me, and it strikes at my heart strong because I just see that this is everything. I just know that the Ohio State football team means everything to the people of Ohio. It runs deep in their blood, and it's who they are. It's their identity. It's their pride. And to be the head coach of the football team, it's just an unbelievable responsibility, and that's why we stay late at night. We come early in the morning and make sure we do everything we can to make sure we're successful in this game because it means so much to so many people, and I take that to heart.
Far left, Lori.
You were asked about sort of your history with rivalries as a sports fan, but if you were a football player yourself, what's your experience with rivalry games in terms of your play as a quarterback?
When I was in college, we had a rivalry against Maine, and that was big. Back in New Hampshire, we had that. We fought for the musket. That was the prize, and so that was a big rivalry for us. And then growing up, there was a lot of, in our town of Manchester, New Hampshire, we have about 100,000 people in 4 high schools, and there was rivalry games, crosstown rivals, things like that. We played our Thanksgiving Day. It was called the Turkey Bowl in Gill Stadium in Manchester, New Hampshire, and that was a big time. Everybody in the city would come out for those kind of games, and so those are kind of my experiences.
Sort of jumping off Doug's question, did anything in your background prepare you for what the rivalry means here in Columbus?
Again, just seeing I've been around sports my entire life. I've watched sports my entire life. That's what I've been since I could remember. I could walk, is just being a part of everything and seeing what it means to so many people. But again, growing up for me, it was more of the pro teams because that's what I saw, and it was still everything. I remember, family members crying when the Red Sox, were in the World Series and the ball went through Bill Buckner's legs, and things like that. You remember because that's the way life was, and going into the Garden to watch Bird go against Magic Johnson and those type of things, and those are the reasons why you become a coach, is to be in those kind of environments, and this is what this is here. Yeah.
Right next door, Matt.
The ball security issues from last week, you haven't had them really all year. Any common thread in it? Was it just good defensive plays by Penn State, and how much is that obviously going on the road, I guess, emphasized this
Yeah, it's completely inexcusable, and that's how you ruin a whole season right there. So that being said, I think it was a little bit of both. I think that we were a little careless. I thought a couple of them were really good plays. The one to Justin and the goal line, he's working hard. The ball's pretty tight, and the guy puts his helmet right on the ball. Not an excuse, but I thought if you look at it, he wasn't just being careless there, but not good enough. We score right there. The game could be completely different, and it wasn't. And then the two fumbles there between J.K. and Justin there in the third quarter, again, are inexcusable. Were they good players or not? Who knows? All I know is they can't give up the ball. And when we give someone the football, we put the whole team's trust in their hands and the future in their hands, and they know that. They know that. So it's something that they're not great champions. They were warriors. They both played real tough and they played really good, but if you give up the ball, you're not a champion, and you put our team at risk. So, we talked about it, and we're going to get it fixed.
Michigan's run defense, early in the year, they with Wisconsin, which a lot of teams do, but it looks like statistically they've shorted up. What do you see when you look at them? Because that's running game is obviously a big part of your offense.
Yeah, I think that they were kind of finding their way early in the season, and they've found a rhythm now. Again, I think probably since the second half of that Penn State games when they caught their rhythm, Wisconsin did hit some runs on them early with Taylor, but but they're good. They found their way, and he's done a good job of getting the guys in the right positions to be successful.
Front row left. Mitch?
Coming off that a little bit, Shea Patterson's playing his best football of the season. When you look at tape of him, can you tell why that is? He's doing anything different? What's going on with him?
No, I don't really know. I'm not there, so I don't know the dynamics of what's going on. So it's hard to tell when you don't know people. But I do see him being more confident, and I see, a group that feels like they found an identity, and they got really good receivers, by the way. Those receivers are talented, and offensive line's giving them time. So, I don't know exactly what made them all click, but it seems like it's going well right now for them.
Fourth row middle. Wyatt?
I'm going off of Doug's question about Chris Olave's performance. How important is that type of performance in that large of a game for a freshman player and developing him?
Well, I just think it gives him confidence that if he can do it in that game, he can do it in any game, which he's kind of shown that he can do. And so what a great opportunity to step up in a big time rivalry game. Then again, this year, who's going to be the guy who steps up and becomes a legend in Ohio State football history? That's what's fun about playing in games like this.
Folks, we have just a few more minutes. Just FYI, second row left, right, Tony.
Right. What was your record as a starter when playing for the Musket?
Ooh, I think I might have been 1-2. I think. Yeah, I got to check to be sure. That was a while ago. That was a while ago.
I was going to ask you for your most distinct Michigan memory, but it sounds like it was the start of that 2017 game. Then what do you remember when JT finally went down for good at the end in terms of getting Dwayne ready for that?
Well, going into the game, the week before, we played Illinois at home in the pouring rain, and Dwayne came into the game and fumbled on like his second snap. They returned it for a touchdown, and we had to put JT and the starters back in the game, which was a complete nightmare. So that was my last memory of how Dwayne was doing on the field, and now we're in the rivalry game trying to play and win the game. And I think it was his first 2 snaps were 2 false starts. It was 3rd and 3. We got a false start. It was 3rd and 8. We got a false start. It was 3rd and 13. Then he threw the fade route to Austin Mack. And then from there, he played really good. He kind of stepped into it, and I think that was his. You talk about Chris Olave's moment. That was probably Dwayne's moment to say, yeah, I'm here now. So it was great to see him compete like that. But up until that moment, I wasn't really sure how it was going to go down.
Were you upstairs?
I was in the box, yeah. Yeah, no, it was just, hey, here we go. And have at it, brother.
Ryan, in this rivalry, looking back the last really 20 years, the team that wins the rushing battle typically seems to win. Whoever outgains the other, and obviously that probably typically happens in football, where the team that wins is going to outgain the other. But I'm curious, in this rivalry, why do you think that's been magnified or really important?
I think it's important in every game because you control the clock, you control the game when you can run the football. I thought we did that last week, other than the turnovers, because if we don't turn the ball over, we pretty much control that game because we ran the ball. But I just think it's important that way. You can throw the ball and that's fine, but when you can run the ball, you control the clock, you control the game. And so I think that's why it's typically important.
And Jonathan Cooper announced last week that he's going to pursue a red shirt, so he can appear in one more game. How do you guys determine where he comes back, how he prepares during the week, what game you want to use him for?
A lot of things come into play. The depth of our D-line, his overall health, if he's exactly at 100%, what the game plan is. But it's good to know that we have a game that we can use him in if it's fit. And then certainly, he's going to play another game this year. We just don't know exactly which one yet.
Fourth row right, Aaron.
Ryan, in regards to having Al Washington and Greg Madison on your staff, how much of an edge do you think that gives you from a game planning perspective in terms of maybe what Don Brown might be thinking on Saturday?
Not much. I mean, it's a different team. They're a different team, and there's a couple things here and there, but for the most part, you just watch the film and you got to figure out what your guys can do. Sometimes that stuff gets overrated because you start to overthink things. So I mean, those guys, obviously have their hands full on the other side, so they're busy over there.
Over here to the right, Don.
You study these guys year round. You know what they're about. You know what all the players are about. How good is this team that you're going to face, and is this the best club you'll face this year?
It's the most talented, and we'll see. I mean, they have the ability to be as good as anybody in the country, when they're playing well, and so I think they're playing their best football now. And certainly we're going to get their best shot on Saturday.
And final questions over here to the right plate.
From the time that Urban stepped down until he gave you the whistle, what was that, after the Rose Bowl? Was there anything he said to you one-on-one about this game?
No, but just because I think we talked about it all the time, during those 2 years was just how important it was. And, we were coming off of the heels of the rivalry game last year when, we played very well on offense. So, in the time that we had put into that game plan, and I think he understood that, how much I appreciated, what he did to build this rivalry up in his 7 years here and what his record was. And to think that, he's 7-0 is just completely overwhelming sometimes. But all you do is you just put one foot in front of the other and you just keep working. And that's all we've done. That's all our coaching staff has done. That's what I've done. And we're going to do the same thing this week.
Coach, thank you.